Today I'm joined by Sean from Kilimanjaro. As channel manager, I've worked with a lot of customers over the last years that are genuinely having issues running their business, and they need to look at something a little bit more sophisticated. I've worked with Kilimanjaro for many years now. I find their ethics to be great in terms of if you're a customer of theirs, and their implementation process is second to none. So you get what you get scoped with, and you get it on time and on budget, and they're a great group of people to work with, which is why I selected them to run the Acumatica portion of this webinar series. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Sean, who's the sales director at Kilimanjaro, and he'll be running you through Acumatica today. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks for that introduction, and yeah, thanks to ezyCollect for hosting us today. We've had a long relationship, as you mentioned, and great to be a part of this. And thanks to everyone who's joined today. Hopefully, you found the session to be a productive one, and we'll get straight into it. So today's session is entitled "How to Tell You if You've Outgrown Your Software." We've got quite an action-packed agenda. Going to touch base on initially working through how one or identifying the signs that you've outgrown your software. We'll then segue into risks to be aware of when assessing an ERP solution. It's great to identify that you've outgrown your software, but how do you go about assessing an ERP solution? And there are 3 types of risk to be aware of when doing so. We'll jump into a bit of a demo, a high-level demo of MYOB Acumatica, and towards the end, I'm going to circle back just to let you know how Kilimanjaro fits into the MYOB Acumatica picture, a bit about who we are, and as Graham mentioned earlier, just a bit more about our implementation methodology and how we go about implementing something like MYOB Acumatica. A bit of housekeeping: please feel free to utilize the chat for any questions. I'll probably circle back to those questions towards the end of the session. Those are my contact details. I'll share them again towards the end of the session as well. But post the session, please feel free to reach out at any time. All right, so some signs you may have outgrown your current software. Now, these are some typical signs we come across, by no means an exhaustive list. These are just some of the common ones that come out. Obviously, there'll be unique ones to every organization that you'll identify, but just some common signs that you've outgrown your software. Could be you're doing a lot more manual processes than you have ever been doing before. You've got more products that you're servicing or distributing or stocking. You're completing more projects than you ever have before. You've got more customers, more employees. You're managing more locations. You've got more tools and add-ons because you've potentially trying to bolt on different add-ons or connected products to solve a particular pain point that your current software may or may not take care of. You've got increased volumes. Now, increased volumes could mean just that, increased volumes, but also increased volumes in the sense that they're causing potential performance issues in your software, or the current software you're on is just not built to deal with that amount of volumes, whatever they may be. You've got remote operations that maybe multiple offices or that you're trying to manage now that weren't there when you initially set up your existing software. You might be dealing with multiple ABNs. You've got different entities now. Consolidations are an issue. Intercompany is an issue. Reporting is an issue. Integrations, as I mentioned, you might have more tools and add-ons. You've got a lot of add-ons you're running. Integrations to those different add-ons are potentially becoming an issue or hard to manage. Performance, as I mentioned. Separation of responsibilities. Obviously, as an organization grows, one tries to naturally start implementing separation of responsibilities, and the lower products or the off-the-shelf products typically can't cater for separation of responsibilities in its true form. Reporting, a big one, obviously, always comes out, and automation. The more manual processes you're doing, the more automation you're actually looking for. You want to move away from the world of manual processes. But these are just some typical ones that pop up. There are obviously a lot more. The integrations one is quite a big one that we come across, because a natural move or a natural shift before you get to an ERP solution is to try and look for bolt-ons to your current software. The problem with bolt-ons or integrations is that, as you know, there are thousands of products out there that one can look to integrate or are integrated into your solution. But the problem becomes that it becomes quite a complex picture and quite complex to manage with all the solutions in play, especially when something goes wrong. You know, where are the lines of responsibility? Who do you go to when there's an issue with an integration into your current platform? What you really want to try and do is move more to a connected environment or unify your systems under something like an ERP, enterprise resource planning product. You want to achieve as much functionality under the one platform as possible. If there's functionality that then can't be met, you might look for a best of breed solution that is integrated, or one could integrate or one can develop, but your platform also needs to have the foundational capabilities for ease of integration, and which a lot of ERPs, especially MYOB Acumatica, does, but bring as much of that functionality under the one hood as possible. Now, that's great to identify that you might be outgrowing your current software, but how do you go about looking for a new ERP system? Well, there are three types of risk typically that one needs to be aware of when looking at an ERP. There's software risk. Obviously, what we're looking at today is an MYOB product. Substantial company, you can minimize the risk there. Implementation risk, we'll go into some more information on Kilimanjaro Consulting and how we can help minimize the risk. Self-inflicted risk is risk we can't always necessarily help with, or although we can assist with things like change management, but making sure you've got the right team internally to drive a shift from your current software onto an ERP solution is absolutely critical. We'll go through each of these three areas as we move through the webinar today. I'm going to start off with just addressing the software risk. As I mentioned, MYOB Acumatica, what we're looking at today is an MYOB product. MYOB's actually got three main divisions within their organization. Two of their main divisions is shown here. I'm not actually showing the accountants division, the practice software that the accountants use, but the two main divisions are shown here. Typically, when people think MYOB, they are thinking about the three products on the left, products like MYOB BankLink Essentials and AccountWrite, off-the-shelf software. What you get is what you get and no more. It can't be configured or tailored or customized. You sign up direct with MYOB and off you go. They're just over 1 million, I think about 1.1 million customers now running those three products of MYOB. But what's changing in the market is the knowledge that MYOB actually has a strong enterprise division. In fact, they were voted #1 in the mid-market space already back in 2017 and 18, and they've done that with 3 ERP products over time: MYOB EXO, MYOB Acumatica, and MYOB Greentree. There's a story behind each of these 3 products. I won't go into the story behind all of them today, except the MYOB Acumatica product. We'll go into a bit of detail about that. Really, back in 2012, MYOB wanted to do something in the true browser software as a service ERP space. They were going to build a product from scratch, but they also went internationally, and they came across a product called Acumatica. Acumatica is the fastest growing SaaS ERP solution globally at the moment. They've just ticked over about 10,000 clients outside of Australia and New Zealand, going absolute gangbusters. MYOB loved the product, the technology, the company, bought 20% of the company at that time, and really have the rights in ANZ. They added a localization layer into the platform for GST tax and payroll. In fact, they built in payroll and workforce management, and MYOB Acumatica is probably the first ERP to market that contains all 3 of those components: ERP, which we'll touch base in a little while, payroll, and workforce management. They released MYOB Acumatica in January 2015. It was actually named MYOB Advanced at that time. It's rebranded towards the end of last year and is called MYOB Acumatica, but it's the same product. New functionality in Acumatica finds its way to MYOB Acumatica and vice versa. The development teams work hand in hand, but it's the same underlying product. There are now over 2,500 sites running MYOB Acumatica across Australia and New Zealand. So there's been some phenomenal growth since 2015, and that growth is certainly continuing. All right. Now, as I mentioned before, there is actually a marketplace as well of add-on products that are integrated into the Acumatica platform. You do want to stay as true to the core ERP platform as much as possible, but if there is a core piece of functionality that can't be met, you could look to an integrated add-on. In the market, Kilimanjaro, we always do our homework on any add-ons we may recommend. We look at the company's reference sites, technology, development teams, etc. Obviously, ezyCollect is a fantastic one that a lot of our clients do use. But you do want to try and minimize that tech stack as it is. Kilimanjaro, we have got a lot of experience moving organizations, not just from the lower division products like QuickBooks and Xero and AccountWrite. MYOB Acumatica has actually allowed us to move organizations from off the shelf software, as I mentioned, but also companies coming from other ERP platforms. So we've moved organizations from QuickBooks and Xero and AccountWrite, as I mentioned, but also products like Sage and NetSuite and TechOne, etc., onto MYOB Acumatica as well. That's the name the product goes by overseas. It's called Acumatica. It was founded in 2007. Their mantra is access your business information from anywhere, anytime, any device. It was built from the ground up for the web, so cutting edge technology, modern REST-based APIs, for example. So from an integration perspective as well, the product is naturally built for integration if required, because it's using all the modern tools. It didn't morph into a SaaS ERP product like some other vendors. It was built from the ground up for the web. It didn't come from an on-premise solution. A heavily awarded company, Acumatica. If you Google Acumatica, you'll see it's been heavily awarded. It is owned by EQT, which is a Swedish private equity company. MYOB, obviously owned by KKR. So the amount of money they're investing into the development of the product is pretty phenomenal. The new functionality that comes out all the time is just really unbelievable. MYOB's won a number of awards with the product over the last few years. In fact, they were voted #1 by iStart this year. MYOB Acumatica, the #1 ERP. iStart released some statistics about MYOB's share of the ERP market, which is now just over 24%, which is fantastic to see. And Acumatica has played an extremely valuable part in that. Those were the statistics I mentioned. Over 10,000 customers outside of Australia and New Zealand, over 2,500 within Australia and New Zealand, and 439 sites were implemented last year. As part of your monthly license fee with MYOB Acumatica, MYOB has chosen to host MYOB Acumatica on Amazon Web Services. Part of your monthly license fee covers everything you see on the screen. So disaster recovery, backups, compliance, monitoring, maintenance. Your data is encrypted at rest as well as in traffic. It meets a lot of the compliance in the bottom right-hand corner. We've got a lot of government institutions and financial institutions running MYOB Acumatica, so it's had to meet a lot of compliance. All your data is absolutely within Australia or hosted within Australia. Big platform behind. I won't go through all of this now, but you don't have to use all components of the platform. You can scale with the platform over time should you wish, but it covers everything in your, if you look at it in different sort of columns over here, it covers everything within financials and sales and purchasing and inventory, CRM, projects. There's a construction edition, there's a manufacturing edition, field services, there's payroll, workforce management, employee portals, and self-service. So a big platform there under the hood. Another way to look at it is through, it's got all the finance related functionality, and I'll touch base on this a little bit in the demo: people, projects, supply chain, production, field services, etc. So a big platform under the hood, as I mentioned. Really, it's allowed, MYOB Acumatica has allowed us to play in many different verticals, from food and beverage, not-for-profits, wholesale distribution, professional services, manufacturing, technology, entertainment, health, mining, engineering, and finance, education as well. But because it's so versatile, it has allowed a vertical focus in many different verticals, actually. Last few slides, there's a company called Nucleus Research. They do a lot of research into technology companies, specifically ERP technology companies, and they've actually voted Acumatica, or ranked Acumatica, all the way back from 2017, actually, but back in 2022, they were voted #1 by Nucleus Research as the most usable ERP solution out there. And that's maintained it in 2023 as well as in 2024. which is great news for MYOB Acumatica because it's the same product, but it's the most usable ERP system out there. All right, so I've gone through that all pretty quickly, but I'm sure you all really wanted to join to get a bit under the hood of MYOB Acumatica and see what it looks like and feels like, which I'll go through shortly. And we can circle back to the remainder of the risk areas I want to talk about a bit later. I did notice there's a question. There is a full hire add-on to Acumatica. I know Marsha, our head of ecosystems, is on the panel as well. But Marsha, maybe you can try to dig that up for the questions towards the end. There are a couple of our clients that have gone down that route as well. All right, I am going to just end the show here for a second. I'm just going to move across the demo. Just give me a moment to do that. Give me a second here. Right. Okay, so MYOB Acumatica. You open up a browser, pretty much any browser out there. You brought to a login page. It's got single sign-on. It's got two-factor authentication. But in essence, you enter your username and password. You hit sign in, and first and foremost, you're presented with a landing page. Now, the landing page in MYOB Acumatica, and you can have one or many landing pages. You're not restricted by the number of landing pages you can have or dashboards, but the landing pages are there to help drive your day, your week, your month. You want to automate as much as possible in MYOB Acumatica and let the landing pages help direct your energy and your attention where you need to focus. All right, they can be tiles of information, they can be color-coded lists of information, they can be graphs of information, links to other websites, embedded Power BI graphs, etc. But really, it's tailored to your role. So with MYOB Acumatica, every user would be associated with a role. And that role can dictate what dashboards they see, although you can override that at a user level. So let's just say, for example, we've got someone whose role is purely accounts payable. Your dashboard would all be about accounts payable, your supplier outstanding bills, a number of open bills, top 10 suppliers, bills due for payment, bills due for approval. MYOB Acumatica's got a really strong approval workflow, which we'll touch base on. That goes back to that separation of responsibilities. But everything you see over here is tailored to accounts payable, or it might be a finance manager who wants to look across accounts payable, accounts receivable, your general ledger, your bank recs, etc. So the takeaway there is really you can have a dashboard, one or many. You're not restricted by the number you can have. Very easy to create new dashboards and add in new dashboards. It's not rocket science. It's all done through to the front end. You can just add a new widget in, link it in, and off you go. All right. Now, from a navigation point of view with MYOB Acumatica, down the left-hand side, I've got all the modules. I'm in a demo system, so I've got everything activated. But really, you find the module you want to do something in. So, for example, payables. On the right-hand side, these are the transactions, the processes, the inquiries, the reports, and the profiles I, as a user, can see within payables. Now, once again, we've got not just user security, role level security, data row level security. You can only do what you can see, and you can only see what you've been given access to see. So not to pick on accounts payable again, but if my role was purely accounts payable, all I would see down the left-hand side is payables and what I've been allowed to see on the right-hand side. There might only be 2 types of transactions and 2 inquiries and 2 reports that they can see, but that's all configurable within the platform. You can favorite your items and they appear under the favorite section, but it is pretty uniform. If I've, once again, as I said, you click on payables on the right, you see the transactions, the processes, and inquiries. If I click on receivables, I can see the transactions, the processes, inquiries, and the reports. So very easy to use, very uniform. Having said that, there is an extensive search at the top. Now, the search doesn't just search through data and help as you would expect, but it does also search through the screens in MYOB Acumatica. So if you walked in next Monday and MYOB Acumatica was magically there, ready for you to use, you can actually type in what you want to do. So if I want to go into something like fixed assets module, type in the word fixed assets, and it will actually show me all the fixed asset screens in the platform that I've got access to see. If I wanted to do something around a journal, type in the word journal, if I can spell properly. And there's my journal screen or my inquiry screen. So it will actually show you the menus you can go to. You can open it up in a new tab or a new window, or I could literally just drill down into that screen. Now, the beauty of the search at the top, it doesn't just search through screens, but it also searches through data. So let's say someone phones into your organization and says, Sean, I've got a document here with a reference number 2323. Please tell me what it's about. Type in that reference. There are no menu items with that reference, obviously, but if I click on transactions and profiles, I can see there 3 accounts payable bills and 1 accounts receivable bill with that reference or part of that reference in that transaction. Now I can drill down, as I mentioned, or open it up in a new tab. It's a cloud-based platform. You can run what it's about. Sorry, I've just got a pop up here. There we go. So I can see this in an accounts payable invoice for Telstra. I can see it was for $12,000. I can also see that there were 3 supporting documents attached to this transaction. So you can drag and drop PDF documents, Excel documents, Word documents, etc. onto the screen, and literally you can open that up and view the source document for that particular screen. All right. I can go to pretty much uniform across the majority of the screens in MYOB Acumatica. So this is the accounts payable bills and adjustment screen. You've got the capability for notes at a header level or a line level. You've got the ability to set up activities, tasks, events, reminders for the screens. As I say, about 90% of the screens will have these items at the top. You've got the ability to drag and drop supporting documentation. You've got a customization layer if required. And under tools, you've also got a full audit history capability. So I can see that this document was created by who and what time and when it was last modified. You can also enable field level audit security, which means every single field in the platform can be audited should you so wish. The auditors love MYOB Acumatica because everything can be audited if you set it up that way, if you require that. Okay. So just to summarize there, we've talked about the dashboards. We've talked about how you navigate through the platform. We've talked about a quick access to a screen with some notes, activities, files, etc. You do also have a recently viewed area where I can go and see all the recently viewed documents that I've gone to as a user. On the right-hand side, I can actually favorite some of those records. So if this record was of interest to me, I could favorite it. It would appear on my right-hand side, and whenever I go to the recent items, I can actually see where that document is up to in a workflow, for example. Okay, so that's from a navigation point of view. But let's jump a little bit deeper into the platform. I wanted to talk about generic inquiries as well, as you'll see these throughout the platform. Now, generic inquiries, gone are the days where you run a static report to get some information. Although MYOB Acumatica shifts with about, I think it's over 357 reports, but it's the on-screen inquiries is really where all the magic happens. So if I want to see a list of my suppliers, for example, click on suppliers. Sorry, I've got to pop up here again. Let's get rid of the pop up. There we go. I've got a list of all the suppliers in the platform. And what you're looking at here is what we term a generic inquiry, and you get different forms of generic inquiries. This is just the supplier generic inquiry where I can view a listing of all my suppliers, but very similar to Excel. I can move the columns around. I can sort, I can search, I can filter on any of the columns. I can add in new column names. I can take away columns. I can set up different views of my suppliers if I want to as well. I can search through the supplier list. If I want to just type in Telstra, for example, finds Telstra, but I can filter and save these different views. I can also save as a pivot table. We've got inbuilt pivot tables in the platform. But what's also quite useful is obviously I can drill down to that supplier to view more information. But if I was on a list of the suppliers in this sense and I didn't want to drill down to go view certain information, I do have the ability to have slide out panels. So I can click on the slide out panel, and for each record I'm on, I can view further information. So for example, 3M there's no open transactions. But I might go to, let's just try that bandana. I can see there's some further records there, or some further information that I wanted to see without drilling down. And we can add to these tools as we go along, which are no problem at all. But if I did want to drill down into a supplier card, in fact, we'll come back to the supplier card in a moment. But just that concept of generic inquiries, I just wanted to touch base on a bit more. Another example of a generic inquiry, rather than running a static report, for example, could be an age analysis. So I've got a little bit of an age analysis here where I can view a list of all my suppliers, their balance, their aging, for example. But as I mentioned before, you can the beauty of the generic inquiries is that you can interact with these generic inquiries. So if I want to look at a listing of all my suppliers, but particularly any suppliers that have an amount outstanding in 60 days of more than, let's say, 50,000. There we go. I've got that list now. I can easily export it to Excel if I so wish, but I can also save the view of this form. So if I click save here, I can just say greater than, what was it, 50K in 60 days. I can share this particular view with anyone else in the organization, and you can see that view will always be there. So I can always go see the age summary, or I can see a quick summary there of greater than 50Ks in 60 days, or you could set up individual supplier views. These are just some examples of generic inquiries. And as I say, I'll touch base on these as we go through more in the platform. Once again, you can color code, you can subtotal, you can interact with them. Okay. So just touching base on the modules, and I'll come back to the supplier cards in a moment, but just touching base on the modules in the platform. Obviously in finance, we've got everything that you can imagine in finance, certainly everything AccountWrite can do, plus a lot more. Xero, QuickBooks is all available in the platform. I can once again look at a quick list of journals in the system. So this is a listing of all the journals in the system. But if I just open up the most detailed transaction, which ultimately is a journal, I can go to the last journal that was done back in 2024, or the first journal in 2017. There's no purging of data in the platform. It's built for mass amounts of data. Once again, in this journal screen, you can see I've got the capability for notes, activities, files, and customizations, etc. Very strong general ledger structure. Won't go into all the detail with that now, but we've got obviously you've got a chart of accounts. We've also got dimensions that you can add to your chart of accounts, and those dimensions or sub-accounts are tailored to your reporting lines in the platform. We can store multiple entities and ABNs, as I mentioned, in one login. You're not logging in and out of different files to go to your different entities. You can have access to all your entities all in one place. The entities can interact with each other. In fact, the licensing allows for unlimited entities in a tenant. I'm logged into one tenant at the moment, and I can have unlimited entities in there. I might have a tenant for Australia, a tenant for New Zealand, although you can run multiple entities with different base currencies in one tenant as well, but you're not limited to the number of tenants. So just some functionality I might point out in the finance suite is obviously you've got your journals, you've got your auto reversing journals, you can copy and paste transactions, you can save templates. This also goes through all the transactional screens in the platform. You can easily copy a transaction should you so wish, create a new one, click paste, and you've got that transaction. Same with the invoice or a payment or whatever the case may be. We do have approval workflows, not just on journals, but as I mentioned, throughout the platform, where transactions can go to different people based on workflows. I'll touch base on that in a moment. We've got modules like prepayments and deferral schedules and allocations, all within the platform. Typically, I come across a lot of organizations where they might be running their prepayments or deferral schedules outside of the system in spreadsheets and journalizing that in every month. We've got modules that deal with that automatically and the system will automatically go and build those schedules for you. You don't need to manage that in Excel. The system can actually build those deferral schedules for you, or prepayment schedules. I won't go into that at the moment. So look, under finance, a lot of functionality. We've got budgets. You're not limited by the number of budgets, the number of times you want to forecast. You can export your budgets to Excel, import them back into the platform. Number of reports, although we do have an Excel add-in as well, called Velexo, that is integrated real time into the MYOB Acumatica platform. It's an MYOB license. You can do any type of reporting in Excel. It's like a blank slate, because it's real time integrated into MYOB Acumatica. You don't need to run a report and export it to Excel. You can actually do all your financial reporting and management reporting packs in Excel if you so wish, or you can use the inbuilt report writers in Acumatica as well. Just segueing into what we talked about a moment ago, being approvals. You can embed your whole organizational structure into the platform. You build in how your company is structured. You can add in all your users into the platform. But why you do that is so you can start utilizing what we call approval maps. Now, approval maps are workflows. You're not limited by the number of approval maps you have in the platform. You might have one specifically around, let's say, accounts payable, that when an invoice comes in, if it's less than 5,000, you've got a specific rule, or maybe I can approve anything that's less than 5,000. If it's over 5,000, it's got to go to 2 other people to approve in the platform. So we can configure these through the front end. You can configure them as well, but you set up certain conditions, not just on AP documents, but these go throughout various other areas in the platform. And as I said, pretty much throughout the platform. And you can set up certain rules that if it's over certain amounts, or a certain general ledger account, or a certain stock item, or a certain supplier, that it has to go through a certain workflow. Each workflow has rules. You can say, well, based on those rules, it needs to go to certain people to approve. And those workflows kick off in the platform. Everything you see today, by the way, is on your phone. There's a native app for iOS and Android, but the approvals, you would get a notification on your phone, or an email, or both, or you can go to your approvals area within the platform. Just go to my approvals here, and I can look at all the documents that have come through to me for approval. I can drill down into them. I can see any supporting documentation. I can bulk approve. I can obviously sort and search and filter through this list. I can set up my approvals or work groups, etc. So very strong approvals workflow. What I might do is just to show you a bit of the breadth of the platform, because there is a lot to get through. Obviously, finance takes care of everything around financials, banking. MYOB has bank feeds to all the major banks and more. It's obviously got a full cash management module, a full bank reconciliation module. You can set up those bank feeds to pull transactions into the platform automatically, but you can also set up automated rules. Gone are the days doing the manual bank recs. You can set up the automated rules that can automatically create transactions and automatically reconcile for you. That's all part of the platform. Multi-currency, corporate cards as well. Fixed assets, there's a full fixed assets module within the platform. So you can actually purchase fixed assets through your accounts payable module. If it is against an asset cost account, the system will warn you that you've got an asset to bring into the platform. You can bring that fixed assets into the platform. We've got all the different depreciation methods, book and tax. You're not limited by the number of books that you can have with the fixed assets module. But you can set up that fixed assets, and you can depreciate it and track all the relevant information you need to. Once again, this is quite a common module where people are doing this outside of the system. You want to bring it into the one platform. Payables, as I mentioned, is everything around payables. You've obviously got your supplier card. Similarly, you would have a customer card, but I'll just drill into a supplier card just to show you a bit about that. We've got all the general information about a supplier. You've got their financial terms. You've got their payment or bank account details. Now, if there's any information that you want to track against a supplier, a customer, a stock item that isn't on the screen by default, we do have things called attributes. You can set up drop downs, text boxes, calendar boxes. We can set up new screens. If you wanted to track additional information, you can then easily use that additional information in your reporting or in your dashboards. There is a full CRM module within the platform. You don't need the full CRM module to have contacts. So these are contacts against Telstra. I can drill into those contacts and see their control center. This is the same against the customer as well. But I can track all my activity against those contacts. All the contacts activities would appear under the supplier. But in essence, you can track your chats, appointments, escalation, notes, and phone calls. You can embed your Office 365 account into the platform and actually interact with your emails as well. But a full supplier card, once again, you've got notes and files and customizations. You can click into the three dots and see various inquiries or reports against that supplier. If I wanted to just have a quick look at all the transactions for that supplier, click on the view transactions, and now I've got a listing of all the transactions against that particular supplier. Once again, generic inquiry, you can move the columns around. I can see I've got supporting documentation there as well. Other things to note within the MYOB Advanced platform, which I mentioned earlier, is all around automation. Now, automation is a big part of MYOB Acumatica, and you'll see these automation screens throughout the platform. You can actually ask MYOB Acumatica to automatically prepare your pay run at a certain time of the week or day or month. The platform knows who you are, it knows your approval limits, it knows your suppliers, their invoices, their due dates. You can actually say, well, I want you to prepare my payment run for me on this day with these conditions or these filters. And I'll then just come in, have a look at it. I might say I don't want to pay this invoice or that supplier. I can modify that particular payment run. I can release the payments, create my ABA file, upload that to the bank. So you don't need to manually go and do the prepare pay run, let the system do the hard work. You just review it and edit in and approve in. Similarly with like depreciation, for example, you don't have to run your depreciation. You can set it up on an automation schedule to automatically run for you, etc. Those are just two very simple automation modules. We have everything around purchase orders, but as well as requisitions. So typically you can do multiple requisitions, convert requisitions into purchase orders. Once again, approvals around all of that. Full inventory management. Now we've got full inventory management with distribution, different costing methods. There's a warehouse app on your phone as part of the MYOB Acumatica app where you can do receipting, stock taking, and picking, but full stock control. I might just bring up a quick product here. This is a listing of all the products in the system. I can see this is a finished good. As I mentioned, there is a full manufacturing module as part of the platform. I can see the valuation method for this particular stock. It's average. We do have FIFO and standard and specific as well. But we can do multiple warehouses, multiple bins within the warehouses. So I can track all the different warehouses. I can actually track different replenishment settings for all of the warehouses, etc. I can track one or multiple suppliers against that particular stock item. Attributes, packaging, etc. So there's a lot of functionality there. We've got projects. Projects is an area where you can track capital projects or projects that you want to capture time and billings against as well. Receivables, as you would expect, sales orders, people's the payroll. I know I'm going to go through this quite quickly, but I know we just conscious of time. But then there are many more items there. We've got franchise connectors, full CRM, opportunity management, pipeline management, service management, equipment management, route management, case management. As I mentioned, user security, integration modules, as well with a modern REST-based API. But the row level security, just to mention that as well, I can give you all the reports in the system to you and everyone in your organization, the same reports, but you only see the data you're allowed to see. So we can restrict at a row level data security level. Now that's probably the quickest sort of overview demo I've got. I'm going to circle back obviously to questions at the end, but what I wanted to get back to is just a bit more about the risks when looking at an ERP system. And the last piece of risk I wanted to talk about there is obviously the implementation risk. Now, the implementation risk with Kilimanjaro Consulting, we can help minimize this risk. We are MYOB's largest channel partner. We were established in 2006. We have the largest certified team in the channel. We're part of a publicly listed company called the Enterprise Group in New Zealand. We only focus on MYOB enterprise products, so we're specialists in the MYOB enterprise space. We're MYOB's first diamond partner, as I mentioned, and operate across ANZ, multiple offices there in Sydney, Parramatta, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra, Perth, Auckland, Wellington, Hamilton, and Christchurch, over 1,500 clients and over 130 employees. We've got a large time zone of support because we support New Zealand to WA, so there's always someone you can get a hold of. But our core purpose with Kilimanjaro Consulting is to improve efficiency in businesses through the clever use of creative, innovative, and proven technology. Now, the worst thing an organization could do is move from one piece of software to another piece of software without efficiency gains. There must be efficiency gains in that process. And that's what we aim to do in every implementation. Just digging a bit further, actually back to what Graham said right in the beginning, we have got a very structured methodology, a very low risk methodology on how one goes about implementing something like MYOB Acumatica. If we're lucky enough for you to move into the green box, we've got a 4-stage process there of how we put in Acumatica. We've got a design phase, a build phase, user acceptance testing and training, and go live. I won't go into detail of each of these different blocks, but in essence, a very low risk approach into how we implement training from the beginning, project management from the beginning as well. We know if our clients move through this methodology, they'll get a good result at the end. Typically, on average, really depends from implementation to implementation, but you're probably looking at about that 4 to 5 month mark to put in something like MYOB Acumatica. But you can have the best product in the world, but if it's not implemented correctly, obviously that's where there are issues, and our methodology helps negate those issues. That 4 to 5 month mark doesn't mean we're in a boardroom for 4 to 5 months, just from the start to the end from a time perspective, is around that mark. Now, I know, just conscious of time, as I mentioned, I'm just going to leave the methodology up there for a moment, and I'm just going to get stuck into some questions, but please feel free to ask or put further questions down. I can see, Marsha, you're doing a good job there of answering some questions. I'm going to leave the question there with regards to the hire module. But with regards to, can you make those attributes compulsory to fill out? Absolutely. So we can actually, in Acumatica, back in the platform there, just to show you really quickly, I'll just bring up a bills and payments screen as well. But any of the fields in MYOB Acumatica, you can see some of these are red, means they're required, so we can make those attributes required to be filled out. But the reds are required. We can change those. We can change the sequencing as well. There are a few options we have here. Okay, sorry, Marsha, you were answering about the rentals, which you mentioned there were 2 add-ons, Connection and Acu Rental, I think, as well. But maybe Ian, we can take that offline as well. And you've answered the question about the attributes as well, so thank you for that. I might open it up to the floor. I'm happy to go through any questions. I'm happy to continue. I know it's 11:45 as well. That was a lot of information to get through, but happy to go through any further questions. Please feel free. Happy to stay on as well. Another question there, multi-currency. Absolutely, multi-currency, full multi-currency. We can handle realized, unrealized gains through the platform. We can connect to certain currency sites to update the currencies automatically, or you can import, or you can handle that manually, whichever those 3 options you prefer. We can send through post a session as well. I think there are a couple of sites there, Cameron, that we connect to. I can pull those through. I think XE is one, and I can't think of the other one right now, but we can send those through. Will a copy of this recording be available to watch again later? might have to actually ask ezyCollect about that. If not, Craig, I'm more than happy to have another session. We can maybe deep dive into other areas that you wanted to see. Obviously, there's a lot to cover in the platform, so I'm more than happy to, if you want to reach out to me, more than happy to set up another session, no problem at all. Any other, Graham? You're on mute there if you're trying to reply.
We'll be sending a recording of this out to all the people that registered and all the attendees today. So there's no issue with getting a copy of this, so you can go through it again at your leisure.
No problem. And just for my email address as well, it's just here at the bottom here. I'll just enlarge that for you. Sean.eichels at Kilimanjaro-consulting.com is the email address. And I get for ezyCollect there, when they send out the recording after the session, perhaps you can also just send out my contact details as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely no problem at all.
No problem. More questions, please. Any other questions?
Any other questions? This is a great opportunity, people, to ask those questions that might be in the back of your mind now. And while we've got Sean on the line, it's a great place to just pop them in the chat. Give you a few seconds, if not. Thank you for those that did ask questions. It's always great to get some interaction on a webinar, and it's been really great.
Hold on, Graham, sorry, one more question there. Absolutely correct, does handle landed costs. Absolutely. You can, from a purchase order, you can receipt, you can cost, you can invoice, you can separate those three different workflows, or you can do a lot of them in one. It handles purchase price variances, landed cost variances, different types of landed cost allocations as well. Couple more there. Okay, how do you think Acumatica compares to NetSuite? Obviously, I'm biased, but we had an interesting statistic actually this year at the MYOB Summit, which was hosted for 3 days, and we had the CEO John Case of Acumatica come through from the States to present at the conference, along with our CEO and a number of with MYOB CEO and a number of other presenters. But they had actually provided a statistic where they, in the last 12 months, they had actually outsold NetSuite more than they ever have before, which was interesting to hear. Look, from how I think from my point of view, as I said, we focus on MYOB Acumatica, but from I think that maybe I'll point out the things to look out for across all ERPs, not necessarily just NetSuite, but this would apply obviously to all vendors out there. I think MYOB Acumatica is a really strong, and we didn't even get into it, and happy to get into it at any point in time. It has a really strong and flexible licensing structure. Once you provision the site or set up the site with MYOB Acumatica, you pay for 1 month's worth of licenses. You then get 3 months at no cost to go towards your implementation. In your first 15 months, which is a committed term, you pay for 12, but you're committed for 15. You can scale up in that 15-month period. You can't go down in user numbers, but after 15 months, you can actually scale up or down per month, which is pretty unheard of in the ERP world. You're not stuck in these 5, 6, 7-year contracts. You can actually scale up or down per month after those 15 months. From a module perspective, once again, something to consider when you're looking at different ERPs. All those modules I showed you in that initial slide over here are included. The user, how the licensing works is it's named users per named user per month. So everyone who wants to interact with the platform needs a type of license, and there are different types of licenses. But those licenses dictate what access you have. You don't pay per module. You've got access to the entire platform. All that would happen there is obviously you might need some of our time to set up those modules, train you up, and off you go. You don't pay per module, which a lot of other ERPs do. Another differentiating feature is, as I mentioned in the beginning, the MYOB Acumatica platform didn't morph from an on-premise solution to a cloud-hosted, cloud-based solution. So it's built with modern technology, ease of integration, really, really easy to integrate with, but it doesn't come with sort of the baggage of legacy sort of development. It's all new and cutting edge, so very flexible. And the reason I bring that up is because it's modern technology, more modern technology, people are more easily able to interact with it. So it's easier to support, it's got a full application development layer. So we can actually get into the platform within the Acumatica framework and develop, you know, additional screens or workflows or modules, which can then be easily supported
Thank you.
by other people should you ever need that be, but it's more modern. You don't need specific development knowledge to get into that. So those are just a few things that pop into mind. There didn't seem to be much detail in the people space. Did you say it has a payroll? Absolutely. So fully compliant payroll in the platform. Modern payroll being built in, STP compliant, full payroll module, employee self-service, onboarding as well in the payroll. So you can onboard, you can set up your payroll, you can pay through it, the employee self-service portal as well. So your employees can log in, they can apply for leave, manage their leave balances, download their pay slips, all of that within payroll. In addition to that, though, there is a full workforce management module. Now, the workforce management module allows you to manage a workforce. So set up your rosters, your scheduling, capture time. It's got an awards interpreter built into the platform as well. Once that time's been award interpreted, it would actually feed into the payroll module as well. So yeah, full payroll people space. It doesn't, to be perfectly transparent, it doesn't have the other sort of HR suite of modules, things like learning, development, performance management, those type of modules. It's really payroll, employee self-service, and onboarding with workforce management as well. Recommended POS system to work with Acumatica. There are a few out there. Marsha, there was one recently we're looking at as well. There's probably about 3 that I'm completely across. We can probably provide those details, Wayne, to yourself. There's BizX, which is a company out of New Zealand. They've developed a POS which fully integrates with Acumatica. And Marsha, I might have just forgotten the name of the one we talked about this morning as well. There is also is it one POS? I think it is. But we'll come back to you, Wayne, there as well. With payroll, is this the same as the other MYOB payroll or completely separate system? It's actually it's completely it's separate. Obviously, MYOB has built in to the Acumatica platform. It wants to make the UI as seamless from the lower division products all the way to the enterprise products, but it is a separate. It's part of the MYOB Acumatica platform, but it is separate. It's not the same as your AccountWrite. This is a totally different platform to AccountWrite. And within, I'll just log into another site where I've got it set up. But within the MYOB Acumatica platform, am I sharing my screen there still? Yeah, cool. I'll just log into. You don't log into a separate site. The site I was in earlier would just have a payroll module down the left-hand side. I just didn't have it set up in that particular site. But the payroll is all part of that platform. So I'll just log in. Yep. So you've still got, your banking, your projects, your finance, your payables, receivables, and all those other items I discussed. But you've got people, which is the payroll, and everything around payroll, which is built into the platform. So it's all here. You've got all your, all your different landing pages for payroll, all once again part of the platform. Depending on the type of business, hospitality, retail, shop, front POS requirements, we have a few that Acumatica integrates with. Thanks, Marsha, like Retail Express, Lightspeed, Shopify POS, BizX, One Retail, that was the other one I was thinking of. So there are a few there that do integrate. Once again, we're open to integrate. One just really has to look at the level of integration when we are talking POS. All All right, another question: Are there transaction limit caps? Example, a maximum number of sales invoices that can be emailed out per day. So there actually isn't. It's built for mass amounts of transactions. You're not limited. For example, I know like Xero, for example, you're limited by a certain number of transactions or certain number of API calls. There aren't any transaction limits in the platform. MYOB Acumatica ships with a standard size that you're allowed per version you're on. For example, the Enterprise Edition comes with, by standard, 100 gigs. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is absolutely a lot, because Acumatica has developed a way to minimize storage impacts on the underlying environment. I think in the last so since 2015, I mean, Kilimanjaro's got 333 MYOB Acumatica clients and 900 on the Exa side. But of those 333, I think I know of a handful that have breached those gaps. And when they do, you just purchase additional storage, which doesn't cost much at all. So no limits. You just pay for the storage of your site, which you can increase absolutely as you go up. Good, some
Sean,
great questions. Yes, Graham.
Sean, can you just check the Q&A channel, because there's a few more questions there, and I don't want to miss any of them.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm looking at for the questions. Yeah, 100%.
And for chat, perfect. We've got them all covered.
Oh, sorry. Are you saying there's a separate?
There's a chat. There's a chat and a Q&A box, and
all right, let me just see the Q&A box.
I'd hate to see someone left unfulfilled with unanswered questions, and they won't be able to sleep tonight.
No problem. No, I think everyone is posting in the chat. Maybe just ezyCollect there. KC, just check the Q&A box. Graham's mentioning if there's anything else in there.
Yeah, there's a couple in there. I'll just
All right, there's one from Steve here. Thanks, Casey. Yeah, if you can pop them in the chat, that'll be great. For budgeting, can we have a clue of license costs and implementation costs, parameters, CRM capabilities on the mobile app? All right, I'll start with the functionality. So from a functionality point of view, there is a full CRM module within the platform. It does lead management, pipeline management, case management, campaign management. Once again, to be perfectly transparent, it's a fantastic CRM module, and it's all available on your phone with the app. It isn't HubSpot in the sense that you can't embed, the pages of your website into the CRM application, see who's visited what pages and what time they've spent on pages, etc. It doesn't have that type of capability. But if you're looking for somewhere to manage your prospects, your leads, interact with them, pipeline management, case management, campaign management, it's got all of that capability. From a license perspective, as I mentioned, there are different editions of MYOB Acumatica. So let's talk about the Enterprise Edition. There's a Standard, there's a Plus, there's an Enterprise, there's a Manufacturing Construction Edition. If we look at Enterprise, just to give you an idea of licenses, as I mentioned, you pay per named user per month. A full access license on the Enterprise Edition is $251 per month. But a finance license, which had less functionality, for example, would be $199 per month, or a warehouse license might be $199 per month. There is an all-encompassing bundle license for those. Typically, organizations have users that just need very limited functionality. They might want to do purchase orders or requisitions or basic approvals, and that's it. Expense claims, maybe they want to do expense claims through the app. And there's a bundle license that allows you to have 300 users set up for $251, or the cost of one full access license. So it ranges down all the way on the Enterprise Edition. The Standard and Plus Edition, Steve, would be less than what I'm mentioning now, but a full access, it starts off at, let's say, $251, $199 for a finance or warehouse. A sales user is less than that, an employee bundle user, so they scale down from that point. From an implementation cost perspective, always a very hard question to answer. But I would say on the minimum side, we doing implementations around that 40-50K mark, all the way up to 500-600, millions. It can be scaled anywhere in between. It really depends on your requirements, the modules you want to implement, and how you want to phase that into your organization. But it can be scaled up. We actually came out, just to give you an idea of the scale of the platform. We've got very small not-for-profits running the platform, but we also have organizations, the size of MYOB themselves. So we actually implemented MYOB Acumatica at MYOB. So it's good they're drinking their own champagne, as they call it. But that just gives you an idea of the scale. Can business non-financial KPI data be added to the platform? Absolutely. So we've got the capability to set up what we call statistical ledgers. If you wanted to store number of headcount or number of students or any non-financial data, we've got statistical ledgers you can add that into, and then you can report off of that along with your financial data as well. All right, stock replenishment or usage forecasting. We do have stock replenishment, and we do have a full stock replenishment module. So the answer to that is yes. Probably best to send you some more information or actually demo that to you. But full stock replenishment capability, minimaxed levels or calculated reorder points, economic order quantities is all in the platform as well. AI capabilities, great question as well. So AI capabilities we actually had presented at the conference I mentioned earlier. MYOB will be coming out Acumatica later this year, really with I guess 3 pillars of AI in the platform. One is they call it the AI advisor, where the platform will actually be able to provide an advisory platform to you that you can interact with. Another pillar would be an AI solution that identifies sort of anomalies in the platform, if you want to call it that, and bringing those to your attention. Things like not like stock levels and all of that, but hey, this transaction, someone coded to the wrong account for some reason, although we can negate that in the platform. Just wanted to bring this to your attention, and you can interact with that AI module. And the third component was obviously things with like, please create me an invoice and allocate to this account, and interacting with the AI to interact with the platform behind it. So a lot of that is actually coming out towards the end of the year. They've already embedded some AI into like the search that I mentioned at the top. But yeah, that is all coming, hot topic, and Acumatica is certainly not going to be left behind in that. The automatic bill processing, great question, Cameron. Acumatica themselves, so not MYOB Acumatica, Acumatica overseas. Remember, we're probably about 2 or 3 months behind an Acumatica release. So you can always go to Acumatica and actually see what you'll be getting in MYOB Acumatica a few months later, which is great. But they've actually got optical character recognition built into the platform already. So you can send your invoice to, have your suppliers send the invoice to an accounts payable at your organization, and the OCR will interpret that PDF, automatically create your accounts payable transaction, then push it through the approval workflows or error check it, etc. That is there. It hasn't been available in Australia yet, and New Zealand. Having said that, there are add-on products that are established and well integrated in MYOB Acumatica that already do provide accounts payable workflow and automation. There's companies like ProSpend and Dataline and Ocera and Trailed, which add more capability than just OCR to the platform as well, virtual cards and digital frameworks, etc. So it is coming to the core, or you can look for an add-on module that is already integrated. Budgeting capabilities and forecasting, absolutely. So in the platform, we've got, you're not limited by the number of budgets you can have, financial budgets. You can export those to Excel, reforecast, import them again as, forecast budget 1, forecast budget 2, etc. You can pull those all through into your financial reporting, so full budgeting capabilities. Once again, just to be transparent, we don't have if you're looking for enterprise-based budgeting, so budgets that you can collaborate with, capture notes again, send out to different people in the organization, perform scenario, what if capabilities, that's a bit more than we can provide. However, once again, there's a fantastic add-on called Focus, who have a very, very detailed scenario budgeting forecasting module that fully integrates with Acumatica as well. Once again, just depends on your requirements there, Rebecca. Let me just see. Casey, any other questions in the Q&A?
That's it.
Is that it? All right. I'm still monitoring the chat here, so please feel free. Any other questions? Just to Steve there as well, happy to, I'll get some slides around those AR capabilities I mentioned. Perhaps if you reach out to me just on my email address, I can send those through to you, no problem at all.
Perfect.
One more question. No more questions.
No more questions.
Okay.
Q&A.
Look,
All
thank
right.
you, everyone. I know we've gone over there. Really appreciate you sticking around and asking all the questions. Thanks again to ezyCollect for hosting it, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with you all. Graham, I'll hand
Thank you.
over back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Look, really appreciate the questions. As Sean said, it just makes the webinar so much more useful if the people who are attending are involved, and we can answer some of the questions at the time of the webinar. I used to sell MYOB Advanced 6 or 7 years ago, since its inception when it first came out in 2012, and this for me has been quite eye-opening in the phenomenal changes in the 6 years that I last saw it, as to what its functionality is and how it's improved, and just what it can do now. So I hope this webinar has been of real use to you. Please reach out to Sean directly if you want a deep dive demo or a one-on-one consultation. I'm sure he'd be over the moon to hear from you. And once again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you've got value from this. And thanks again, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week.